Stupid, easy, simple, cheap. I qualify for all of those. Today on In the Wood Yard, I'm going to show you a stupid, easy, simple way for you to make fast, easy, accurate cuts with your chainsaw. Here we go. So there's a lot of ways that you can measure your cuts before you make them. A lot of ways. They all work. None of them are wrong, but I think there's some that are better and some that are easier and some that are faster and definitely cheaper. And we're going to talk about them today. Now, number one way to measure your cuts, wild ass guess. Yes, you just guess. But believe me, even though I've cut a lot of wood, I'm not that accurate. Some guys say, oh, I'm real accurate. And then I've seen them cut and then I measure. Like, no, they're not. 14, 15, 14 and a half, 16, 16 and a half, 17, 18, 14, 15. And depending on where you are on a log and the size of the log, it can be very deceiving. If you got a small one, they look longer. If you got a great big huge round, they look shorter. It's that simple. But if you're cutting your own wood, it really doesn't matter because it's all going to turn to ash anyway. But if you're one of those guys that is a perfectionist and you want to do it right, there's a lot of ways to do it. If you're selling wood, you're going to want it really accurate because whether you're bundling or selling it to customers, they expect wood to be a consistent size because the people I sell to don't want the pieces to be long. They're okay if they're a little short, but definitely not long. Because a lot of people that I sell wood to, they stack it in their garage alongside and they don't want it, a piece sticking way out so that they're hitting it with the car door or they're bumping into it and they're walking past it. They want it to be fairly consistent fitting in their racks. And that's important to a lot of people. Maybe it is for you. So, number one was wild ass guess. You just kind of figure it out as you go and sometimes you're short, sometimes you're long. Number two is a tape measure. You take the tape measure and you measure your piece. Conveniently, on tape measures, there's going to be a mark for every 16 inches. So if you want your pieces to be 16 inches, it's pretty easy. You go 16, then there's another red one on here at 32, then there's another one at 48, there's another one at 64, so you can go across the whole log and mark it. And you can mark it with a piece of chalk, or you can use a Sharpie, or you can take a handsaw and make a little mark on it. So that works, but that takes extra time. And I don't have extra time. I'm running out. I'm getting old. Number three is a method that my brother Ken uses a lot. He uses a stick method. He takes a 16-inch piece of wood and he uses it for marking. And you can use a small top handle saw or you can use the snow for that matter if you got snow. So you can lay your piece down on the butt, make a little mark on the snow, or you make a little mark with a handsaw or a top handle saw or something small, a little handsaw. You can just make a little mark and you can go all the way along. Now this is easy to lose. So what I did in the past is I've taken same size piece of wood, little chunk here, this is hard maple, and I put some pink tape on it. Why pink? Yes, it's one of my favorite colors, and I'm okay with that. I'm man enough to admit it. The reason I like it is that you can see this anywhere. You throw this in the grass, you throw it in the back of your truck, you throw it in a pile of wood, pink stands out. If you throw it on the ground and there's leaf clutter, the pink will stand out. If you've got red, sometimes that doesn't show up so good. Blue doesn't always show up so good. Yellow doesn't always show up so good because sometimes there's those colors. But in nature, pink. Pink stands out the best. Lime green's not bad either. I've tried that. But any of the fluorescent colors. This is just duct tape put on here, 16-inch piece. And I put it in the middle just so that I can see it in case it's covered up on one of the ends. But there you go. Another way is to have a longer one. This is a 32-inch piece. Because what you can do is put this on the end of your wood, and then I got a mark in the middle, so you can put it there, you can mark it here, mark it there, and you can double your measuring device. But the bad thing about this is it's bigger, longer, and more awkward. This, on the other hand, you can put in your back pocket, front pocket. Sometimes you can stick it in your chaps if you've got a pocket, you can slide it in there. So this is actually pretty darn handy. So that's the stick method. Number four, I do not have it. I've never used it, but I don't really like it just from what I've seen, videos that other guys have done. It's called a Mingo marker. Not bashing them, I'm just saying. It's spray paint upside down on a thing that you roll along, clicks away. They're not super expensive, 30, 40 bucks, something like that, plus your paint. But again, it's an added step that you don't need to do by rolling it across the log and marking it. Yeah, it's probably real accurate. It's plastic. I work a lot of times 20, 30 below. I'd probably break one, and I just don't want the extra step. So there's that. Another one is the AccuCut, which is a piece of metal or fiberglass with a magnet on one end and a marker on the other. A lot of guys have them and they do like them. A lot of times what people will do is they'll put them on a small saw like this one here, this little 540 or a top handle. They'll stick it on the bar because it's magnetic, sticks on the bar, and you can just go and you can cut every slot. Again, it's an added step. I have used them in the past and I have found they're easy to lose. As you're running your saw, the magnet isn't always strong enough and it moves a little bit, or you bump it and it can hit your chain as it's going around. You can throw it off of there. That's happened to me a lot when I have used them in the past. They do work, but again, it's something you got to buy. Or if you want to make your own, you can take a piece of PVC with a big magnet, you can stick it on there. That works too. So you can make your own and you can do it really cheap. But there's something that's even better than that, and we're going to get to it. The next one, number 6, is the bar method. And a lot of people do this because it kind of eliminates some of the steps from having to go through your log and mark it off and then start over again. This one you can use as you cut. What you do is you make a mark, and here there is a mark on here. I did it with a Sharpie. You could grind it in. This is a brand new bar here, and I just put a mark on it to show you here. So from the tip to here is 16 inches. So as you're cutting, you can take your saw, lay it on the end of the log, look to see where it is, turn it and cut. And I did this a lot in the past. This was one of my favorite ways to do this for a long time until I came up with something better. So again, you lay the saw sideways and it's marked on both sides, so you can go either way with it, and then you turn it and you cut. But that's an extra step, so it adds more time. And you're having to take the saw, turn it, twist it, lift it, turn it, twist it, cut. A little bit extra work, but it does work well. The next one works well. I have several, I've used them. The company has sent it to me. I've done videos on it. It is the laser marker. They work good, but it's an extra device you've got on your chainsaw, on the handle you've got mounted there. It does have to be charged. In bright sunlight, you can see it, but you got to look harder to see it, and you got to have it lined up just right. I found when I'm cutting trees down, it gets in the way, because when you turn your saw sideways, it's right where your grip is right here. So when you're making your front cut or your hinge cut, it's in the way because it mounts right here, and that's the place it's got to go. And some people love them. If you're cutting in a pile, I know my buddy Tony, he loves his. He uses it all the time. And there's several people that I have talked to that they love them. It's like a $70 device. And like I said, I have done videos on them and they do work. But to me, it's an extra thing on my saw that I don't really want. And I have thought of something that's even simpler and much cheaper. So the next way is very cheap. It's going to cost you literally pennies. There's no electronics to it. It's not in the way. It works all the time. It's always there. Super easy. And I came up with this idea years ago, and I've got several other videos showing this, but I've got so many new people to the channel. I thought it was time that I cover this again, and I have some new saws that need to be set up for cutting this way. I saw a guy cutting years ago, probably 10 years ago, with his chainsaw, and he had an attachment that mounted to the nuts on the bar on the side. It was an attachment that attached right on the side here that folded back, and it was on a Husqvarna saw, and it was actual Husqvarna product. It was a metal piece or fiberglass, I'm not sure what it was made of, but it mounted right on the side here, folded back when you didn't need it, and you popped it out, and then you had your 16-inch measurement. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And I tried to find one, but they were really hard to find, and when I did, it was going to take forever to get one. So I started thinking, which I do often, it does hurt sometimes, but I did it anyway. I came up with a better idea, and this is it. This is it. Stupid, easy, simple, cheap. I qualify for all of those. This is so simple, works so well. I gotta tell you, I've been doing this for years now, and it works fantastic. All I'm gonna do is tie this on to my handle, and I'm gonna put some tape on it so that I can see the end of it. I'm gonna use pink tape again because it works really well. So all you do is put your zip tie on like this, which is really hard to do. Ooh, that was hard. Cinch it up tight. Give it a twist to where you want it, which is right about there. And then I'm going to measure from the bar to the end at 16 inches, which is right here. And I'm going to cut it off right there. There we go. Next step, take some tape. You can use whatever color you want. Some people use yellow. Some people have used blue. I've seen lime green. I've seen red. I like the pink because it stands out. All I'm going to do is wrap this around the end here. So once, twice, around we go. Where we stop, nobody knows. There it is, done. and it works fantastic. Super easy. Now, I have done this lots of times. They do break off occasionally, but you can buy a pack of 100 cable ties or zip ties, whatever you want to call them, for what? $7? So it's costing you literally pennies. Super cheap. And tape, you don't have to do it, but there it is. So this can actually be turned out of the way if you want. You can spin this around. You can get different thicknesses of these. I find I like the thin ones because they're real flexible and they're out of the way and they just spring right back. I do put on 2 or 3 at a time, most of the time. I do usually put them down a little bit lower. I just put this here so you guys could see it. And I have put them on so that I've taped this so it doesn't spin, so it's there all the time. But it is kind of nice to be able to spin it out of the way so that it's not always sticking out if you don't need it. Because you may be doing other types of cutting with it other than cutting up rounds. But this, stupid, simple, easy. Now, I don't put it on all my saws, but I do have it on most of my saws. There's a bunch of them in here. This is my new saw. This is my new 562 XP. And I'm going to put this one on. Actually, I'm going to put another one on here in just a little bit. I put it on here because I am going to be using this quite often for cutting rounds. I also have it on, I'm going to put it on the Echo today, the 7310 that we have. I also have it on all of my 572s, which are my main saws that I use quite a bit. And I'm also I also have it on my 592. Now I don't have it on my big saws, my 3120s, because I don't buck with those. Those are just for playing with and cutting big trees, big stuff, and doing things like that. And I don't put them on the little bitty top handle saws or the real little bitty weenie saws, as my brother likes to call them. And the reason I don't put them on there, because I'm not cutting rounds with that. I'm using those small saws mainly for limbing. So the 62, the 72 cc saws up to the 90 cc saws, those are the ones that I'm going to put the markers on. Stupid, easy, simple. So now I'm going to show you how easy it is to cut with it. We're going to fix this one up all the way. I'll show you the finished product on a couple different saws here. And then I'm going to show you how to cut some rounds from logs. Super easy, super fast, super cheap, super simple. Again, I qualify for all those. Okay, now I have 2 zip ties on here, which is adequate. Like I said, I've put as many as 3 on here, and I have put thicker ones on. To me, the thicker ones get in the way. I like these whippy ones a lot better. They get out of the way real easy. Now, if you lay the saw on its side, these will get bent over and they can stay that way. And all you gotta do is bend them back into place. But if you really want them to stay and you're gonna be using your saw for bucking all the time or for a long time, you can tape these in place because, well, I should show you this first. Because these will swing out of the way. You can push these over like this and you can get them out of the way. So they're already away like that. And you got to put the zip tie to the front. So these are on the side, ready to go. And I like them on there all the time like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of electrical tape, black tape, and I'm just going to put it on here so they don't spin. If you put them on tight enough, they don't spin very easily. But by putting this tape around, I'm going to do a couple wraps here. It holds really nice and it doesn't twist on you. Now, some guys like it so they can move the zip ties out of the way, which is what Bert does on his saw. He put them on really loose so that he can move his. I like mine like this for when I'm bucking all the time, and that's primarily what I use this saw for. And because I have several of them, this one is going to be a permanent one. I'm just going to put it on, not permanent, it's semi-permanent. You can cut this off real easy and get rid of it. Like I say, you might break them once in a while. So all in, about 7 cents. Because you can get these for about 6 cents a piece, 5 cents a piece, little piece of tape, another little piece of tape. So this one is ready to rock and roll, and I'm going to show you the one we're going to do on the Echo next. So here's the new Echo that we got a while back, the 7310. I'm going to put ties on this one, cable ties, zip ties, whatever you like to call them. I hear it called both. So we're going to put this on. Now, like I said, if you don't want them to be on all the time, you want to be able to move them, leave some space, and you can spin these around. But if you cinch them up tight, they are going to stay on pretty tight because this is kind of a rubbery grip that's on most of the saws. And if you tighten them up, it's pretty tight. It's hard to move them. And you can move them, but not easily. But again, they're cheap. So we're going to put another one on right away here. So we got a 2 for 1. I like 2 because 1 can break off, can get bent. And 2 just seems to work really well. Like I said, I've done 3. If I'm cutting a lot of times, in the winter time, I'll put 3 on because when it gets cold, these will snap off sometimes. If you set your saw down really hard, they can snap off. But if you do take the tape and you make kind of a stress relief on here by taping around like almost like a collar. That will help keep it stiffer. But for now, this is going to work just fine. We're going to put it on right away, just kind of lightly, just in case one of the guys doesn't like it and you can peel it off and bend these back. But we're going to put this on right now. So I think I should be able to have enough room that I can get this roll of tape back here. Oh yeah, no problem. So we're going to come around and around we go. Got just enough room to get through here, looks like. There we go. And again, I'm not putting a ton on, just going to get it so that it's kind of stiffens it up a little bit. And I'll show you the collar, what that looks like. You just come around like this a couple times, and that'll stiffen it up. And sometimes that'll bring your zip tie, your plastic ties, the cable ties together. But I'm going to give it a little bit of a collar like this, kind of as a stress relief, so that if there's any pressure on it, it still stays. We're going to go around one more time here. And then back around, and then we're gonna pull it off. There we go. So now I got a little bit of stress relief there, and I'm gonna take the tape this time. First we're gonna measure, and then we're gonna cut off. We're gonna cut off at 16 inches again, right there. And like I said, you don't have to go 16 inches. If you want your rounds to be 18, 20 inches, whatever you want it to be, you can get different size zip ties. It's not that hard. Go to the hardware store or whatever. Everybody's got zip ties. Not hard to find. So then what I'm going to do on this one, I'm going to do it special, and we're going to put the zip ties together at the tip. So I'm going to start with, well, I guess I don't need that much tape. I only need a little bit, so let's take this little piece here. I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to go around once, and then we're going to bring the other one right together with it. So these will be joined at the ends. There we go. And you can do this however you want. I've tried it lots of different ways. It all works. There we go. Let's go do some cutting. So here's the zip tie on the Echo, zip ties I should say, or cable ties. Here's the 572 Husqvarna. Here's my new 562. I got them on there. This one I didn't tape down because I want to be able to spin this out of the way if I want. Here is Bert's saw, this 390. He's got his loose, so his spin real easy. He can spin his around to the inside like that, so it's not sticking out of the way. So when he's cutting, you don't have that sticking out there. So he's got it pretty darn loose on there, and that's how you can do that. Here's one of my other 572s. Here is my 592. You can see that's taped on because I do use this primarily for bucking. And again, we don't have them on the top handle saws like this battery one of Bert's here that he just bought, this battery operated Husqvarna. Again, I don't have them on the 3120s, either of those. Don't have them on the little bitty saws like this little 540 here because again, I use these primarily for limbing, and that's kind of what the top handle saws and the other small ones there, pretty much for limbing. But the bucking ones, that's where we like to have the zip ties or the cable ties on so that they work well. So we're going to do some cutting. So I'm going to use a tape measure to start with and just show you how much extra time this takes. Whether you use a marker or a piece of chalk, doesn't matter. But yeah, you start on the end, obviously. You make your mark where there's a 16, and then you go down here to 32, then you go down here to 48, then you go down here to 64, then you go down here to 80, then you go down here to 96, and that's your cutoff down there. Then you put your tape away. Then you close up your marker, or you can mark a bunch of logs if you want. And then you cut. That's extra steps. Okay, now, say we're using the stick method. Same thing. You use a stick, you go to the end, you make your mark. Go to the end, make your mark. Go to the end, and line up, make your mark. Go to the end, make your mark. Go to the end, make your mark. Go to the end, make your mark. There you go. So this is nice and simple and easy. Works just fine. I used to do this. Now I'm going to show you the saw method where you use your saw bar to measure. Okay, so here's my brand new 562 XP Mark II, and I do have a mark on here. And again, you could use a marker. You could actually engrave, you know, with a grinder or something. You could, a Dremel tool, cutting tool. You can make a little mark on your saw, however you want to do it. Or if you want to memorize it, it's at the A on this side, and on this side it's at the U. You could do that, and that would work. Some guys use 16-inch bars, so they know exactly what they've got. So this is a 24-inch bar. So we're going to pretend, I'm not actually going to cut, I'm just going to pretend, which I'm good at. I'm good at pretending. So, okay, so I'll walk up to the log. First thing I got to do is, because I'm cutting from right to left, I have to turn the saw this way to measure to the end. Or I got to turn the saw this way and then measure from the tip to where the mark is, and then I can make my cut. So we're going to do this the right way. So the way you would do this to start with is you would go down and you'd start on your left and cut to the right, because that way you can naturally lay the saw, look at where your mark is, make your cut. Lay the saw on the end, make your cut. Lay the saw on the end, make your cut. Saw on the end, cut. Saw on the end, cut. Saw on the end, cut. So that actually works pretty darn good, and I use this method a lot. Now, I've got this fancy dancy thing here. So what I can do, if I'm starting right here, I can measure to where I got to go. I just look to see where the pink tape lines up, and then I make my cut. Now if I'm starting on the other end, which is always easier to start from your left to your right, you take the little marker on the end here, you lay it on the end, make your cut. Lay it on the end, make your cut. Lay it on the end, make your cut. You're not turning the saw back and forth. And if you want to be real accurate, you bring your saw up like this to your last cut so that your little ends are right at the last cut, and then you just go right into your cut. I, a lot of times, will stand up above and I just look. See if I can do this here. A lot of times what I do is I just stand above and I kind of go over to the side. So if I'm standing up, bucking, which works, I look over to the side and I just kind of line it up and I make my cut. I don't have to physically go all the way down and then cut. And I can get within a half an inch by doing it that way. So it does work really fast. I'm going to show you right now. We're going to do the first log by cutting with the bar measurement, and then we're going to do the second log cutting with the zip ties. Okay, so for the first log, I'm going to use the mark on the bar and show you how that works. And then we're going to use the zip tie or the cable tie method by just looking and cutting. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start up the saw, let her warm up a minute or two, and then we're going to do some cutting. And you should always let your saw warm up for about a minute. Just so you know, it does make a difference. So let your saws warm up. There we go. Now we're going to throw these rounds out of here and then we're going to cut the next log. Okay, so I moved this log into place because it's about the same size. Here we go, let the cut happen. So, if you're cutting from left to right, obviously just line it up and cut. Works really good. Like I said before, if you're cutting from this side, fire on the outside, look at where your cut is and then make it. We're going to start on the left because that is the best way to do this. I always start from your left. So here we go. Cutting again. So come up and line it up. On me. Now I got to kind of do one of these, kind of line it up. Same with this one down here. I think you guys can see it maybe. So I just line it up on the ground. There we go. So there it is. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Whatever method you use, if you're happy, that's good. If you've got a mingle marker, if you've got the AccuMark stick-on one, if you've got the laser one, they all work. But this is about 6 or 7 cents. And it works fantastic. It's fast, it's easy, no electronics, no charging. Don't have to worry about it getting in the way. It's just there. The bar method works great too. And like I said, I used to do the bar method for years back and forth, but this saves me time. It's just that much less movement I have to make and that much less lifting of the saw that you have to make doing it this way. So there you go. That's it for today, folks. Come on back tomorrow morning, 5:30 a.m. Another video for you. If you like what you just saw, there's over 1,400 videos on my channel all about firewood. You need to watch them all. Good night, Irene.